Hey, Heather here from Circle with Heather, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about starting to practice earth-based spirituality. This is video 3 in a 4-part series, so if you would like to, you can pause now and go back and watch the first 2, or you can just start here. This is probably actually a pretty good one to start on if you are familiar with what earth-based spirituality is. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see my slides, and we're going to talk about what it looks like to get your own spirituality practice started. Now, some of us may be interested in this because we grew up with a spirituality that doesn't resonate with us now. Some of us may be interested in this because we maybe grew up with kind of a lack of spiritual understanding and we're developing it now a little bit later. Or maybe you just love to talk about this stuff and you want to spend some more time devoting yourself to your spiritual practice and you're looking for more ideas. So welcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how earth-based spirituality practices look for me. So kind of to review, earth-based spirituality means shifting your beliefs to center the wisdom of the earth. So the more everything has a spirituality. Everything has beliefs underneath that inform its actions. So, if you talk to Jeff Bezos or Donald Trump or the people that own Walmart, the Waltons, what is that their name? If you talk to anybody or any organization long enough, you can figure out why they do what they do. So they would all have ideas on how you should spend your time and who you should give your power to and the impact you should have on the world. So by developing your own spiritual practice, you are deciding for yourself. You are designing your own spiritual home. So when you go down deep and you figure out your own beliefs and you find your own center or your soul or your spirit, whatever you want to call it, I call it your presence, that is you finding that place that you can go back to that will give you resilience and strength and wisdom, so that you can keep going and you can make the impact on the world that you want to make, and so that you can feel okay, right? Those are all important things. So I want to talk to you about entropy and centropy, because this really defines to me what a spiritual practice, like the purpose of it is and the impact that it has. So entropy is this force in the universe that everything is expanding, everything is moving towards chaos all the time. So I think of it as your ego. So it's necessary for growth in that it is constantly, your ego is this narrative that goes on in your mind that is constantly providing thoughts that is your brain trying to help you survive, right? So it's based a lot on what has happened before. And so let's be prepared and let's do it a different, let's live in a way that never allows us to get hurt or can help us compare ourselves to other people so that we can do better. So this ego that we have, to me, is a force of entropy in that it is pushing us to grow, but it also is pushing us a little bit towards chaos. So centropy is a force of coming back together. So you think of, as you live your life, your environment, your home, your room, my kitchen, my fridge, whatever, moves away from being organized to being cluttered and disorganized, right? And so that is just how life goes. You put some things down over here, you're living your life, you're going, you're growing, you're making stuff happen. And centropy is when you take a minute and you put things back together, right? And so I clean off my desk and I put all the papers in a pile. And so centropy in your mind is that still place inside you that you can go to. You can use a spiritual practice to go to that still place inside you, that presence that you have in you, to start to make sense of things again. So it's going to a spiritual home and having a practice to coming back to center and getting steady over and over so that you can go out and live in that world of entropy again, right? And still make the impact that you want to, and still be have intentional direction to your life. So that's why I see spiritual practice as a force of centropy, because we, luckily as humans, we get to choose our own story, right? We have this ability to look at our own consciousness and to choose to listen or not, like to choose to question our beliefs or not, to choose or our thoughts. So I'm hoping to teach you some spiritual practices that bring you back to this center, to provide a force of centropy in your life so that you can stay steady while you grow. So the most important thing is letting go of that narrative. So finding that inner quiet, some people call it soul or spirit, I call it presence, like I said before, finding that moment of presence is essential to providing some centropy into your day or your month or your year or your life. So I find that I let go of my inner narrative when I am maybe listening to music, when I'm in someone else's creation, so I'm enjoying some music, or I'm enjoying watching a show, consuming something. To me, that I notice my inner narrative's gone there. When I'm doing something creative, when I'm in a deep conversation with someone, when I've let go of the narrative and I'm just experiencing life, right? To me, that is being present. So there's, different ways you can do that, but the most intentional way is meditation. And so meditation is just, to me, a general word for choosing what's going on inside your head, choosing what you're paying attention to. So for me, I love these long drawn out meditations that I do that have specific visualizations that are meant to get you somewhere specific. But the most impactful for me meditations are the really small ones that happen throughout my day when I'm doing the dishes or driving my car. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. So when you find presence, when you find that quiet spot, the things that are bothering you, right, the soft, tender spots are going to come up. And bringing presence to your soft, tender, hurt spots, right, whether it's past trauma, whether it is things you're worried about, right, the ego, when you set it aside and the narrative goes away, it's like the most important things can come up, right? And that does happen to us. Even, in your ego, you can go over and over conversations you had. But if you can get past the thoughts you're having about that conversation and just notice the feelings that come up, just bring your presence to it, that's when you can start to heal. So centropy in the world, right? If you get a cut on your leg, that's, a little bit more chaos. You were out doing hopefully cool stuff and you've injured yourself. And that's, just a moment of chaos in the world, and the healing that your body brings to that, right? That's the centropy, that's the putting it back together. And when we take time to bring presence into our life, to come back to center, that is what's healing. So, the saying is time heals all wounds. And I say that time doesn't have anything on presence. Presence is what you can use to intentionally find healing. And so, of course, when we talked, if you watch the other videos, you can apply that from the tiniest scale out on all the levels of your life and the world beyond your life. So here are a couple things that I like to do to bring my presence back to being an earthling, back to this core truth of oneness. The first thing is having things around in my house that bring the earth to mind. So I like to have, as you can see, I have my cards there that I use for my circles that name the different elements and the directions. And so I like to have items around for each of them to remind me. I have associations in my mind. I've created meaning around each of them. So that's one cool thing you can do to, just while you're living, right, have these reminders around you to come back to presence, to remember, this deep truth that you are an earthling before you are anything else. So the next thing, the next most important thing I would say is finding north. And so I mean this, literally when I'm outside, I like to, or inside, right? But it's easier outside, to find north, to notice the direction, notice my orientation on the earth. So that helps me remember that figuratively, I'm always facing some direction, right? I am never neutral. There is always multiple perspectives and I'm taking one. So it helps me remember to step back and notice what is going on in my mind, and be intentional about what direction I want to face. And a third thing that is really important to me in my spirituality is noticing where I am in time. And I like to do that through ancestors. So time is a funny thing. It's hard to define, but we in our modern world have put numbers on it, and months and years, and those to me sometimes feel pretty arbitrary. But what doesn't feel arbitrary to me is that a lot of people supported me getting here. And when I remember that I have ancestors, I remember that there is a long, 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 long chain of family, of mothers, and I am one link in that chain, and that a lot of people came before me and worked very hard to keep their family line going, and a lot of people are coming after me, hopefully. And I am just one bit. And so I just apply that to family, just in that comment, but you can apply that to anything. The work that you do now is built off the work that other people have done, and the people that are coming after you will build on the work that you do. So however you're affecting the world, whatever impact you have, you can remember your ancestors in your family line, and also just the people that have come before and have learned important things so that you can know them and learn more on top, and further the growth of humanity. So those were some examples of creating meaning through ritual. So I'd encourage you, as step number one in your new spiritual journey, if you're embarking on a new one, to find some rituals that you can use to create meaning in your life. You can do them on a daily basis. So this is one example I have that I do every day, is that I go on a walk outside. I live next to some trails, which are beautiful in nature. And since high school, I've been associating the sounds of birds singing or of leaves rustling with the words, everything is okay. Because I think that's what the birds are saying. That's my interpretation, right? But that brings me back. Every time I hear the birds singing, I don't even need the words anymore, but I definitely use them sometimes to get back to this place where everything is okay, right? Where I have everything that I need. And so that's a daily practice that I have that brings me back to center, and that helps me stay steady so that I can do important work in the world. So another ritual, you could do them monthly. So, or just, when certain things happen. So when you feel inspired. So I'm inspired on the full moon to go see it. So we go to a field near our house. You can see my picture here behind me. That was on the 4th of July. And there's actually 2 schools behind me. So I'm just in a field next to a school, and our family likes to watch the moon rise. And I have a lot of meaning associated with the moon because I've studied it some. And I just love the night of fullness where the moon is just fully illuminated and shining. And I like to imagine myself the same way. So I think the thing we can probably all associate the most meaning with is the seasons of the year. And so we all have yearly rituals already, whatever religion or custom or tradition that you have in your family. In the winter, you probably do certain things, and in the spring, and in the summer, and in the fall. So we all have this deep understanding of the seasons of the year, and it's really wonderful to apply your own special rituals to each time. And so these are corn husk dolls that I like to make with my family on Lunasa, which is what I call August 2nd. It's the midpoint between I'll show you, it's the midpoint between the summer solstice and the spring. No, it's from summer solstice and the fall equinox. So August 2nd here. So these are my favorite times. You see the solstices here. The moments of extreme and the equinox are the moments of balance. And then these midpoints in the middle, to me, these are the moments of hope. These are the moments when I first can see change happen, which I think is a little bit of magic. So, in February, the beginning of February, you feel like you're deep in the middle of winter, and you are, right? You are in the middle of the coldest part of the year. And just at the moment when you are needing some hope, that spring will eventually come. It does, that some hope does come. So you can see the first, at least where I live, little crocuses coming up and the first flowers. I've always wanted to plant some in my yard so I can have that little sign of spring. You can see on certain trees, the places where buds will start to change. The sap starts rising in some other plants. So you have this first moment of awakening. And so these midpoints are pretty fun. And you can see, like, I'm, in the United States, in a dominantly Christian part of the world. And we do have, most of these dates do have Christian events associated with them, holidays. So you probably already have those, but you can, redesign them to really reflect your values and your new beliefs. So I just wanted to show you, here's a way that I like to celebrate each time of the year. So I take the items that remind me of the earth from my house, and I like to lay them on a beautiful cloth. And I really like to get together with other people and discuss the season and have a potluck, that kind of thing. As I'm recording this, we're in the time of the coronavirus, so that's not happening this year. But I'll talk about in the next video how you can celebrate with other people. But when you are creating your intentional spiritual practice, the most important thing is that you start with a beginner's mind. So here's my son. This was at one of our celebrations, and he is like 2 years old, and he is banging his sticks on a stump because he is experiencing the world for the first time. You know, he's just a little babe. So when you develop a beginner's mind, you're erasing everything that you know. You're trying to forget, which is hard, which is why you have to do it in layers. But you forget everything you know about a certain topic, or when you're exploring a certain belief, you try to go down to the bottom and you explore it like you've never learned anything about it before. And what this does is it allows you to have these revelations, these revolutions in personal understanding of the world. And instead of going along with what you've been told over and over, or how everybody else lives, when you get down to the core, so in like previous video I talked about the elements and the cycles, if you get down to the core of what it means to be an earthling, and you build your beliefs on that, and you look at how your beliefs have affected your actions before, and you wonder if that's how you want to continue to live, and you can design new ways to live. This is all engaging with your personal evolution. So just like the world is evolving, you are evolving, and you get to decide which way you go. And your spiritual practice is at the core of that, right? So none of the other things that you can do in your life will change as much as, will have as big an impact on your evolution as your spiritual beliefs will. So these are some of the things that you can analyze with your beginner's mind. So your beliefs, like I've talked about, your diet, and I don't just mean food. I mean everything you take in through your eyes and your ears and in your breath, and everything, even I would consider your narrative, you're consuming it, if you're believing it. So how you interact with your passions, like what are you doing to make impact in the world? Are they coming, what spot is that coming from? Looking at the systems that support your life, using a beginner's mind to wonder if how those work and what beliefs are under there, and how your participation impacts the world. Your body, your movement, transportation, that kind of thing, and how you communicate with other people. So all of these, you can use your beginner's mind over time to go through and to get down to the core, and help yourself, intentionally grow in those areas. Because what is good for you is good for the earth. So when you heal yourself in these ways, when you go back to the core and find new healthy ways to look at the world and to interact with the world, you are a little piece of the world. You are a little piece of the earth. So you are healing that piece, right? You are being part of the solution. So we all have this power inside us to impact the world around us. And again, if you went and talked to the richest, most successful people in the world right now, they would have ideas about how to use your power and where to put your money and how to think about the world. But what I'm suggesting is that you take your power back and you decide for yourself, and you make the difference that you want to make in the world. So you can only be the change you want to see, right? If you can figure out what that change is, right? And if you can figure out how to support your actions with beliefs that align with them. So here's, again, another little cycle. I probably could have used that same winter, spring, summer, fall graph, but your beliefs inform your values. So your beliefs are mostly like unconscious. It's hard to just to put into words how exactly we feel about things, but your values, if you can describe those. I believe in justice. I'm going to, apply this value of justice to my actions, right? And then your actions have this impact on the world. And then when this is you and the world becoming one, like you're interacting with the world, that informs your beliefs again. So this cycle's happening anyway, right? So it's happening every day to you. It's been happening your whole life. It happens on a tiny scale and on a huge scale as a society. So by you coming back to your presence, by you adding some centropy, you are intentionally reorganizing, right, your beliefs so that you can have a different impact that maybe than you would have had if you hadn't, gotten reorganized in that way. So this is the tip of the iceberg. This is like, if you want to practice earth-based spirituality, this is just the tip of where you can go in your mind. It is wonderful to read about what other kind of awakened people have written about, so you can read, how other people have experienced this change. But ultimately, your practice is individual to you. So we are all individuals for a reason. That is not a mistake. That is not an oopsie daisy. The diversity is so important. And healing yourself is healing the planet. And your little corner of the earth is essential. So if you can create a beautiful spiritual home inside you, right? That is healing your small part of the earth, right? And you'll see in the next video how you can spread that, right? How you can, participating in community can kind of amplify that, which is the purpose of my work in the world. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.